controversies surrounding Ethereum. Is the US government selling ETH? At least that was the big topic yesterday, and I took a closer look at it. Everything about it in this video, and of course much more on the topic. Hey, welcome to Crypto Owl. Ethereum is the talk of the town right now because the US government made a move yesterday that caused quite a stir. At the same time, however, the whole thing was brought up again by someone very special. And we have some quick news updates about Ethereum and the world of cryptocurrencies. Let's start with yesterday's controversy. Ethereum was sent by the US government to Coinbase. We can see the whole thing here in the transaction. They sent it over and everyone thought, all right, to Coinbase Prime, that's clear now, the whole thing is going to be sold. The US government's wallet, of course, is under constant surveillance here. With Arkham, you can track the whole thing, completely see the current status, what's being bought and sold, and so on. You can see that here. And here we see the transaction that caused a stir, namely $219,000. Of course, that fluctuates depending on when the price, or rather when the whole thing was moved. Specifically, the US government moved 86.56 Ethereum. The whole thing was then worth $219,000. And this transaction naturally caused a stir. And this transaction really caused panic among many people, with some saying now they're selling the Ethereum off. On the other hand, to be honest, even if they do sell, it's only $220,000. Rounded up, you have to be honest. And these 220,000 US dollars don't really move the Ethereum price, neither down nor up, not really. There's just way too much leverage trading going on across all the exchanges to say this is really going to push the price down because the counter orders are just enormous. To clarify where all of this came from, it was due to these so-called Chase aka hazy seized funds. These were somehow seized about 3 years ago, and now 2 days ago they transferred them. It's also interesting to see 3 years ago it was 115,000 US dollars, and now it's already 219,000 US dollars. So depending on how this plays out in the court proceedings, whether the US government can simply keep it because it was confiscated, or whether it somehow becomes part of the bankruptcy estate, whatever the case may be. I have to be honest, I don't know the details of this case. No matter how it ends up being converted or factored in, it's definitely about 100,000 US dollars more than before. We can see that there are still some small cryptocurrencies here, but for the most part there are also large positions. For example, there are a lot of these tokens here, but today they're not worth anything anymore. So a seizure was recorded here, and this seizure led to the whole thing being sent to Coinbase Prime after 3 years. Speaking of Prime, that's a good point. Check it out on our website, cryptoool.com. There you'll find the Amazon Prime Day 2025. It's running until July 11th. Grab some deals. We have a crypto exchange comparison there. Also a wallet comparison. Check it all out. Here you'll find all the current deals available on Amazon. Hardware wallets, seed backups, and even t-shirts. If, for example, you buy this t-shirt, please send a photo. I'd love to see someone wearing it. I honestly can't quite picture it yet. Check it all out. cryptoool.com, Amazon Prime Day 2025. You can save money here, for example, on wallets. You'll also find the deals and the links there. And of course, you support us when you buy through this link or on the website. On one hand, the US government is causing a stir because it's sending out companies. Alright, as I said, let's note, 220,000 US dollars isn't really a huge amount and isn't enough to make the price drop or rise significantly. But there's a wallet that's also under close observation, one that's been aggressively acquiring companies and also stablecoins after the stablecoin regulation in the US, namely World Liberty Finance. That's the wallet that belongs to the Trump family. I now say the Trump family because Eric Trump has stated that he manages everything, and although Donald Trump talks about this wallet and is supposedly involved in making purchase decisions, he doesn't actually run it himself. Those are the current statements. We can see that a lot of stablecoins are now being purchased here, for example USDC, but we also see that, for instance, a very small amount of Solana is being bought, while mainly tokens on the Solana blockchain are being bought or sold. And we can see here that primarily Ethereum is being staked, but now also Tron. So we can see that they're doing quite well here. For example, they're 21.94 Ethereum here. And many people say, yes, they're long on Ethereum. Supposedly, there's a second wallet. There are always pictures circulating, but so far I haven't seen the wallet address myself. Then there's another wallet that's being monitored here, where Trump is supposedly long on Ethereum because he mainly holds Ethereum here. And by now, also so many different tokens. Is it really Donald Trump's wallet? I don't know. But we can see that a lot of tokens are simply being sent here. So a lot of ETH is being sent here, but also a lot of, quite a few NFTs have been sent here. But for the most part, it's just tokens being sent to him. And many people say, oh, does Donald Trump have this token? So maybe I should buy it. But in the end, it was probably just sent to him. Is it really Donald Trump's wallet? I don't know. I don't really want to make a strong judgment about that. I'd rather look at the prices and check what's going on there. And of course, we take a look at ETH and see that the price has gone up in the last few days. We're looking at the hourly chart here because you can see more clearly what's happened. On the 4-hour chart, we can actually draw a nice registration channel. We draw it from down here up to here. And then we see that it's moving nicely within it and is even currently in the green zone, not in the red anymore. So we can see that ETH is actually performing very well right now. And many people say, yeah, no, I'd rather go with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is weaker in comparison. Because Bitcoin isn't really reaching its new all-time high anymore. It would have to go over $110,000. I'm curious to see if that will work out. I had a firm long position, which I opened around here or here or near of the two, and I closed it earlier because I thought, yeah, it did move up a bit over $100. You can take that in the current weak market situation we're in, because right now we're seeing the summer slump. People aren't really interested in cryptocurrencies at the moment. Retail investors just aren't around right now, and everything has really slowed down. That's why a lot of people are just enjoying the weather instead. Well, last week we were sweating, this week it's already raining, but better weather is on the horizon. I hope it's the same for you, and honestly, everything will come back. So just wait and relax. If you're still involved in cryptocurrencies, you should check out the BitGet wallet credit card. Right now, there's 5% cashback. 5% cashback is a lot. We've written about it on our website. Feel free to check it out. You'll find the link in the video description. This is through the BitGet wallet, not BitGet itself. But you can link your BitGet account with the wallet. You can check it all out here and then use Google Pay or Apple Pay depending on what you use or which operating system you have. It's really easy to connect and all the fees are transparent. So in summary, 5% cashback is a lot. This offer is only available until the 31st of July. And for 2,000 users, the first 2,000 users who take advantage of it. So if you're interested in a crypto credit card, now's the time to get started with BitGet or check it all out on our website. But why has the firm price continued to rise while, for example, the Bitcoin price hasn't? That can be explained pretty simply. A lot of firm short positions could be getting liquidated one after another, which could then drive the price up even further. For example, by this position, everything should have already been liquidated. So we're already talking about over $5 million that were bet on short here, and more could follow. And we're talking about much, much higher amounts, especially this amount here, 2.796. That's a really important position because 131 million were bet on short here. So this wallet is the one to crack. If the price rises to $2,800, it's gone and things could move up pretty quickly from there. That's extremely important. And these are the positions that are currently being watched. That's why when these get liquidated, and as I said, the first three have already been liquidated with the 5 million short, but that's only on one exchange. Of course, there are many, many exchanges that have such large positions. When those get liquidated, the price can keep rising, just like it did here. But it's not just money coming in through trading or spot trading for companies. They also have an ETF. And that's also interesting to watch right now because the inflows here are actually pretty decent. So for the company ETF, they're actually pretty decent. I'm actually surprised myself that it's going so well. We can also take a look at the Bitcoin inflows at the same time. Oh, inflows, of course. They also look relatively stable. It's a red day. Firm had 2 in comparison, even 3 up here, but those were relatively small. The last one on the 2nd of July in the end. Since then, it's actually been totally fine. Money is definitely flowing in here. That's important to keep an eye on. By now, there's also the Solana ETF, though it's through a roundabout way, not a direct spot ETF, but rather an indirect one. The whole thing is a bit odd. That's why we hardly see anything in here. This Rex Osprey. As I said, that's not really interesting yet. More crypto ETFs are in the works or already being planned. I'm really curious to see how this topic develops. Historically, July has been a real mixed bag for companies. After that comes a bad August. I've already explained this before with Bitcoin. Historically, Bitcoin has a relatively good July, but then a relatively bad August. For companies, July is kind of a mixed bag. You have to say, we see breakouts here, 2022. The coronavirus pandemic, we all know it, 57%, although the months before it dropped 45%. as I said, the Corona period. But as we can see, it's really a mixed bag here. Here there's a 30% loss. Here it's 25%. And then twice those 50% drops in 2020 and 2022. And otherwise, it's a mixed month. You can't really say it's a fantastic month. June is rather weak and August is also more bad than good. So it'll be very interesting to see how things develop. Currently, as of July 2025 at launch, we're at 6.18%. At least that's a positive upward trend. Now, of course, it's exciting to see where the price will go from here. Can it still reach that $2,800 mark? That would be up here. $2,800 from the current chart, that would be about 5.45%. If that happens, we'll see this large short position. If that gets liquidated, I can easily imagine that it could quickly shoot up towards $2,850. So it's definitely exciting to keep watching how this develops. I told you there are a few news items from the crypto world, but it's actually still pretty quiet. So I can't really say there are any huge major news stories. Like I said, things are relatively calm at the moment. What I can tell you, there's still an event happening in September. It's the only event we'll be attending this year. So the conference, they're really stepping on the gas right now. They're presenting a lot of things right now. Here on the website, you can buy tickets. And with the code CryptoEule20, you get another 20% off. So go check it out. You can find the events and the information about them on our homepage at cryptoeule.com/events. There you'll find the conference and also the tickets where you can save 20% as well. And the only thing that's really worth reporting at the moment, what's actually interesting right now, is Emirates. They have announced more precisely. They've signed a letter of intent, which is important that in the future, they will accept Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for their flights. That's a cool thing. The whole thing will be done together with Crypto.com as the payment service provider, or rather they will integrate it as a payment method. And Crypto.com will process the payment so that in the end, they receive their dollars. So as we can see, a small partnership has probably come about here. So we can definitely look forward to seeing what happens. Emirates will soon accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on for their flights. That's nice, but I think Emirates is the kind of airline that many Germans don't actually fly with, since most of them mainly travel to Egypt, Turkey, and of course Mallorca. Third place, second place, and first place. That's why, yes, not many people will use Emirates, but it's interesting that even such big, it's an airline giant by now. They have so many planes and now so many airlines know, how do you say, flights, right? Airlines, right? They've taken over airlines internationally, all over the world. That's why when you're traveling around the world, you very quickly get the chance to fly with Emirates. Except to Mallorca, that's something the German airlines and the Mallorcan, or rather Spanish ones, won't give up, because Germans love to fly to their 17th federal state. In any case, exciting news, but it doesn't have a huge impact, so I just mentioned it briefly. Like I said, the news is pretty quiet right now. I think you agree with me on that, or you see it pretty much the same way. The prices aren't really going up for traders, so it's pretty boring at the moment. That's why you get excited about things like this. Hey, check this out. The US government has sent out companies here. There could be a sale happening here. At the same time, Trump, or rather these Trump wallets, World Liberty Finance and so on, keep buying into companies and are even buying ETFs there. Then the ETF people say, oh, something could be happening here. But really, these are just very, very small, tiny pieces of news and maybe only 1 or 2 tokens being watched here. And in the end, yeah, if you're sitting there with 2 people in front of the computer thinking, now we're really going to make money, but you don't have a counterparty who might bet against you, from whom you could skim off the money, because we all know your money isn't gone, someone else just has it. Yeah, then the market is just very, very quiet right now. So we can be very curious. Will the saying come back again in this case? The proverb, sell in May and go away, but remember, come back in September. That's why the conference in Dortmund is in September. Could turn out to be something cool. Very interesting guests from all over the world, whether from crypto, business, and so on. Save 20% with the code CryptoEule20, all written together. Check it out on our website. I would be very happy to welcome some of you there. We can have a little chat. I'm really looking forward to it in that sense. Thank you very much for watching. See you in September in Dortmund, and of course here in the upcoming videos. So until the next video.